Hello. Today we're going to discuss technology integration frameworks, which are what they sound like. They are essentially blueprints for integrating technology into the classroom. A successful framework will ensure technology is integrated into the classroom smoothly and will benefit the classroom greatly. There are numerous frameworks out there, but today I'm going to be discussing a select few. Right now, this is going to look like a bunch of random acronyms, but shortly I'll tell you what they all mean. Today we're going to go over the TIP, LODI, TPAC, TIM, and SAMR models. The first framework is Technology Integration Planning Model, also known as TIP. This model consists of 5 phases. I'll discuss those phases in just a moment when we talk about how it's used. The purpose of the TIP or the TIP model is to ensure successful technology integration. Here's how it's used. The first phase is to determine relative advantage. What this means is to figure out why you would use a technology-based method to teach the topic. During this phase, you would determine if using technology would provide an advantage. If it would, then you would move on to phase 2. The second phase is to decide objectives and assessments. You want to determine what outcomes to expect from the new methods and how you would assess these outcomes. Next, you would move on to the third phase, which is to design integration strategies. The goal is to decide which strategies and activities will work best for the content and the technology being used. Then you move on to phase 4, which is to prepare the environment for the new technology-based instructional methods. Here you would determine what equipment, software, and other materials you would need for the lesson. You would also make sure that you know how to use them properly. Phase 5 is to evaluate and revise integration strategies. During this phase, you would determine what worked well and what could be improved to better teach the topic in the future. So that's basically how the TIP model works. Now let's talk about the LODI model. LODI stands for Level of Teaching Innovation. This model is based on the digital age best practices. These practices include purposeful inquiry, collaboration, authentic connections with content, the successful use of digital age tools, and the use of formative assessments. The LODI model is essentially a 3-stage process. I'll go over the 3 stages in just a moment when we discuss how it's used. The purpose of LODI is to foster student success with a customized blueprint based on digital age practices that we discussed in the last slide. Now let's go over the 3 stages of the LODI model. Stage 1 is building capacity. In this stage, you would introduce the digital age best practices and build the critical pedagogical capacity to foster student success. This stage essentially lays down the foundation of the LODI model. Stage 2 is implementing change. In this stage, you begin a full-scale implementation of the digital age best practices and methodologies introduced in Stage 1. The focus here is on collaborative learning and differentiated instruction. Lastly, Stage 3 is sustaining independence. This stage stresses sustainability of the LODI school improvement model. This focuses on professional training and improvement action research projects and full implementation of 21st century teaching, learning, and leadership. So that is the basics of the LODI model. It's a pretty in-depth research-based model, and to learn more, you should check out the website. The next framework is the Technological Pedagogical Content Knowledge Model, or TPAC for short. This framework emphasizes the knowledge teachers need to successfully teach with technology. The purpose of TPACK is to show the connections between content knowledge, technology knowledge, and pedagogy knowledge. And I'll go into these connections a little bit more as we discuss how it's used. Here is how the TPACK model is set up. As you see, there are three main categories of knowledge. There's content knowledge, which is the teacher's knowledge of the subject matter that needs to be taught. There's technological knowledge, which is the teacher's knowledge of information technologies and the aptitude to use these technologies for education. The third category is pedagogical knowledge, which is the teacher's knowledge of practices and methods of teaching. The focus with TPACK is not on the separate categories, but instead on how they are all connected. As you see, there are other categories created when they overlap. The focus is on the middle category where they all overlap. That is TPACK. It's used by simultaneously integrating technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge in the classroom. Our next model is the SAMR model, which stands for Substitution, Augmentation, Modification, and Redefinition. This model offers a method of seeing how technology impacts the classroom. The purpose of this model is to help teachers evaluate how they are integrating technology. The SAMR model, similar to the Lodi model, consists of levels of technology integration. Level 1 is substitution. At this level, you simply take a task you would do without technology and substitute it with a technology-based method. Here, there is no functional change being implemented. An example of substitution would be having a student print out a worksheet and fill it out and turn it into you instead of providing that worksheet for the student. Level 2 is augmentation. Here, technology offers an effective tool to perform common tasks. For example, having students take an online quiz versus a paper and pencil quiz. At the augmentation level, there is some functional benefit. For example, less paper or an immediate feedback. Level 3 is modification level. Here there is significant task redesign. There is also significant functional change in the classroom. An example of modification would be having students include audio or video with a traditional essay assignment. And finally, we move up to the final level, which is redefinition. At this level, teachers create new tasks that without technology would be inconceivable. And I added that little meme because it makes me laugh and I can't hear the word inconceivable and not think of The Princess Bride. Anyways, an example of redefinition would be having the students work on a multimedia project, something that would require technology. So that is the basic framework of the SAMR framework. The dotted line on the ladder indicates the shift from basic technology use in the classroom to successful engaging technology integration. The goal here is to redefine the classroom. Finally, we're going to discuss the last framework today. Hooray! And that is the Technology Integration Matrix, or TIM. This model emphasizes 5 characteristics of meaningful learning environments and 5 levels of technology integration. The characteristics are active, constructive, goal-directed, authentic, and collaborative. The 5 levels are entry, adoption, adaptation, infusion, and transformation. The purpose here is for TIM is to illustrate how to use technology effectively in the classroom while emphasizing the characteristics and levels that we've already discussed. Now let's look at how they're actually related as far as like the levels and the characteristics are concerned. And to do that, I'm going to show you the matrix. I'm not going to go over every single step and characteristic with you, but as you see, it gives you a framework of technology integration. And as you move along the matrix, students gain characteristics needed for successful integration. All right, and I'm going to zoom in just 1 second. Zoom in to show you what happens at the transformation active level, just to kind of show you what the matrix, how it works. Here, technology is implemented seamlessly, and the students get the opportunity to decide what tools to use and how to use them. As you see, the TIM model is also pretty in-depth. To learn more about it, you can always check it out online. And that concludes my presentation on the technology integration frameworks. Thanks.